Every guitarist knows and loves the Ibanez Tube Screamer. Whether you're playing Texas blues or Swedish death metal, the Ibanez Tube Screamer has made a profound impact on those tonalities. So, what you heard at the beginning was not the Ibanez Tube Screamer. In fact, what you were listening to was the Behringer TO800, basically their clone of the Tube Screamer. But how does it compare to the original Tube Screamer? And that being said, how does it compare to other Tube Screamer clones like the JHS Bonsai or the T-Rex Muller? Let's find out. So before we get to the sound, let's talk about the build quality of the Behringer pedal. So it's clearly based on the Boss design, but it is made out of plastic. So it's clearly not going to be as sturdy and rugged and built like a tank like the Boss pedals are and have been advertised over the years. This is made out of plastic, and you can feel it. And you can feel that it's not like particularly high quality just by the fact it's plastic. Yeah. So these rubber bits here, so on the tread and also underneath, they're clearly rubberized, but they have this kind of plastic feel to it, like almost like a low quality rubber. It's definitely not as much traction as Boss pedals. These feel a bit slippery. I mean, you're probably not gonna have a problem stepping on it. It's fine. You might have a problem on the floor when you step on it. It might slide if it's too smooth on the floor underneath. This print as well on this black section here, the print, it seems to be a print, I think. Obviously this is printed as well. I'm not sure how long that's going to last over time, although I guess you could get this kind of relict look of a pedal. This is like an original Tube Screamer, if I remember correctly, if my friend who I've borrowed this from has told me. You're probably not going to get the same quality of effect on this pedal. This probably won't even last as long. The knobs, there's a little bit of give in the knobs and you kind of move them around. Will they last? I'm not sure. I've only just bought this pedal. The jacks. So you'll see here that the jacks do not have these screws. You can't unscrew and tighten the jack sockets on the Behringer. So repairs might be problematic. What else? Oh yes, the battery compartment. So like the Boss pedals, the battery is, you can put a battery underneath this section here. So on the Boss pedals you have a screw here which you can unscrew, open up this top bit and replace the battery. On the Behringer pedal we have these little buttons on the side here which are supposed to take a pen, push them in and then lift this tread plate section up. I've tried this. I haven't actually been able to lift this bit up though. So I've pushed these bits in, they kind of click into place, and I found myself having to force this top plate up to open it, but it hasn't opened yet and I didn't want to force it for fear of breaking it, so I haven't been able to get into the battery compartment. If you don't want to use battery, you have a 9-volt power supply option here as well. Right, let's talk about what you came here to find out. How does it sound? In short, it sounds fantastic. It sounds very good. So I plugged it in when I got this and I was pleasantly surprised. So I used my Strat type guitar, my Exotic XSC2, and plugged that into my amp with this in front. And pleasantly, it sounded very, very good. It sounded excellent, in fact. It sounded like a Tube Screamer. So what I did, I went to the Tube Screamer that I normally use, which is actually the Bonsai. I set it to the 808 setting. So in case you didn't know, the Bonsai is by JHS and is basically 9 different types of Tube Screamers all in one pedal that you can control with this knob here. You can see it's set to 808 at the moment. A-B these two together, strangely, at least in an isolated sound test, I think I preferred the Behringer in terms of the sound. It just sounded a bit clearer. This sounded a little bit muddier in comparison. So that's not to say that in a mix, if you're playing in a band, maybe the extra heft you get out of the Bonsai might actually work better. But in isolation with the amp I was using, which is a Mesa Boogie Mark V 35 combo, this kind of sounded better to my ears. I'm sure you could set them to be how you want to be. I didn't play with the settings too much, but just in that one-on-one test, I kind of preferred this. I would take this on a gig though, because I don't trust the build quality of this one. So I still prefer this one overall, but this sounded very good. So right before I recorded this video, I thought I'd be remiss if I didn't compare the Behringer to a Tube Screamer, to the actual Tube Screamer. So I should have recorded it, but I didn't. If you do want a comparison video of any of these pedals, then let me know in the comments below. I'll see what I can do. I'm sure I can put that together, do a little Tube Screamer off. But when I compared these two, overall I preferred the Tube Screamer. Now they're very subtle. You'd only really hear the difference if you did compare the two together. As I said, this does sound very good, sounds excellent. But between the two, in a one-on-one test with just the guitar, not in the mix, I did prefer the Tube Screamer. It sounded there's a bit more, there's something nicer in the bottom end that I kind of liked about the original Tube Screamer. It also seemed to sound a bit more, well, I say the Behringer kind of sounded very near, it sounded like that looks kind of in your face. This sounded a bit kind of more backed off and kind of well placed, I thought. But I did find, yeah, this one was lacking a bit more of the bottom end, or the maybe lower mids than this had, one-on-one. Yeah, I preferred the Tube Screamer. I'm sure it's to do with the fact that the components aren't the same. So as I said, this actually belongs to a friend of mine, and as far as he's told me, this is an original Tube Screamer. It even has the power converter on the top there, which you need in order to plug it into a 9-volt power supply. This is probably modelled off the same components that the Tube Screamer has, but maybe some of these components aren't available, or maybe because it's such an affordable pedal, maybe they're just using cheaper components to get this, a similar ballpark result. But yeah, between these two, I preferred the Tube Screamer. So the Behringer, I did the classic Tube Screamer thing where I set all the knobs to 2 o'clock, and yes, it sounded great. That was kind of I think that was the first thing I did when I plugged this in. Set all the knobs to 2 o'clock and you get that kind of classic Stevie Ray Vaughan type sound. I also tried using the Behringer for some low gain type playing. I found the low gain sounds okay, a little bit too hairy for my taste, so for that style of playing I would probably go with more of a clon style pedal. As for my Swedish death metal sounds, well, in the example you'll hear, it's not particularly Swedish. I don't think my metal was particularly Swedish. It was probably more on the lines of Metallica. The classic thing that you do with a Tube Screamer or Tube Screamer type pedal in metal music is you plug into a distorted amp. So you've got your distortion sounds, put your Tube Screamer in front, you turn your drive all the way down, you turn your level all the way up, and it just kind of kicks the amp a bit more, kicks the tubes a bit more. It kind of tidies up the low end a bit, so if you're getting kind of a bit of a muddy low end, this really kind of tidies that up a bit. So the amp I used for my test was the Victory V45. It's essentially the combo version of their V30 amp, which they now call the Victory Jack. Because the EQ on the amp is shared, so it's the same EQ for your clean sound and your dirty sound. When you get your nice clean sound and you switch over to your dirty sound, your EQ might not be as you'd like it. I found that it was a little bit too bottom endy, as you'll probably hear in the examples. So if you put the Tube Screamer type pedal in front of it with the metal settings, it did do a reasonably good job of cleaning up that low end and kind of tightening it a bit so it wasn't so flabby. And it had that sound, that Tube Screamer sound that you use in metal music. So, in conclusion, what are my thoughts on the Behringer Vintage Tube Overdrive TO800? The sound is excellent. You only really notice differences when you compare it to a Tube Screamer or to other Tube Screamer type pedals. The build quality, not so good. But then when you think about the fact that it only cost me £21 for this pedal, for this bundle of joy, I think in America it's about the $20 limit, the $20 mark. So if you want to pick one of these up on a whim, go right ahead and do it. It does sound great. I probably wouldn't take it out on a gig, or at least I wouldn't keep it on a gig long term. Maybe for a one-off gig or for a jam night, I might bring this out with me. If I have it in a looper, like the gig rig or the Boss ES5 or ES8, then maybe I'll stick this in there because you won't have to constantly be pressing the pedal in order to engage it, so you won't destroy it particularly quickly. But if it's like a jam night, you can take this out. It's fine. If you're at home, perfectly fine. If you want something cheap, if you're like on a budget, then this pedal will do the job perfectly fine. So if that's your concern, if its budget is your concern, £21, $20 or so, this pedal is excellent, and yeah, I recommend it. Thank you for watching. I hope that was informative to you. I hope you got something from that, and if you're interested in getting one of these, I've got an affiliate link in the description below. Yes, I do get a little bit of money off of it, even less because of the fact that it's actually really cheap. It doesn't cost you any extra money, but it really goes a long way to helping me out, especially in these pandemic times where musicians like myself have kind of taken it a bit hard. So much appreciated if you do buy this with my affiliate link. If you don't have to do that, but if you can, I would appreciate a like and a subscription would be fantastic. That's another way of helping out this channel. Still quite young, still trying to get up there and get monetized, so YouTube will suggest my videos to other people, so feel free to share this as well. Also, come and make friends on social media. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, have a Facebook page, both called Profunctionist. I'm also on Twitter as Profunctionista. So come there and make friends, come and say hello. Any suggestions for videos? We do guitar lessons as well as gear reviews. Let me know what you think, let me know what you like. Just say hello if you want, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.